Even Nick Kyrgios, I heard him interviewed just recently. He knows his process and it's being true to himself and being a little bit, even called it, being a psychopath on court because it's true to who he is. He's a character, he's a performer. In today's episode, I'm going to share with you how you can discover your own personalized, dependable, repeatable system to make sure you're being consistent and you're getting success. How much of a difference would that make in your life? I'm Ian Hawkins, and this is Sport is Life. The purpose of sport, as I see it, is to see your vision become a reality, find your voice, create strong connections, and learn to trust your body. There's one simple success principle that always works. Now, before I get into that, I will preface this by saying it's important that we know the outcome that we're working towards. It's important we have goals. It's important we have a future vision. But when you are in the moment, when you are preparing for the moment, it's so important to come back to that success principle, and that is to focus on the process. When you get stuck in outcome, there are so many things that you can't control, and it gets you in a state of performance anxiety. You feel the weight of expectation. It negatively impacts how you perform. That can filter through your teammates if you're playing a team sport, or your colleagues if you're in a work environment. If you get too caught in outcome when you are in the moment, when you are doing the work, when you're playing the game, pardon me, it's going to have a detrimental impact to your results, to your level of success, to your performance. So you come back to process. When the Olympics were on not so long ago, Jess Hull, the Aussie 1500 meter runner, what a great performance. And she was being interviewed afterwards. And there was a question around like, what would success be? Would success have only been if you'd got a medal? And she said, well, actually, I like to keep things really simple. I have a really set process for how I'm going to run my race. And if I've run my race how I wanted to, then that's enough, regardless of the result. Now, of course, she was stoked to get the silver medal behind one of the all-time greats, and it was an incredible performance. You could tell that she had a plan and she stuck to it. And there was a couple of times where she had to adjust on the run. She had to accelerate a couple of times. She ran her race exactly how she wanted, and she was so happy about that because she wasn't caught in outcome. You look at the contrast to that, someone like Grant Hackett, and he's been public in saying this, is that every silver feels like a failure because he was so consumed by the outcome. Bring back to process. And if you follow your process to the best of your ability, then that has to be enough. She couldn't control how the tempo of the race went. She couldn't control how the other athletes performed. She certainly couldn't control the ability of the three, uh, or I might be getting this wrong. Either it was the second Olympics in a row winning the 1500, or it might have even been the third time, I'm pretty sure, the Ethiopian woman who won. She couldn't control any of those, but she could absolutely come back to the process of what her best race looked like. And all of that training she'd done, the physical stuff, of course, but in her planning, her her process that she wanted to follow for the race and the execution, just followed that process, nailed it. The other one I heard just recently was Mark Guy's son, who's been playing in Penrith first grade team. I think he's up to about 11 or 12 first grade games when I'm recording this. And he just talked about his journey of coming into this high performing team that's won 3 competitions in a row. They were runner up the year before. So they've been at the top, and then it looks like they're a fair chance of going 4 in a row this year. So they've been at the top for 5 years. And the commentator was asking them, like, what do you put that down to? You've come into this system. What do you notice? And he said this very similar answer. He said, it just comes back to process. I go into those games just knowing I've got a set job, I've got a set process, and that's all I have to do. And that it just means that I fit into the system so easily and effortlessly, and I'm able just to go out there and just do my job. Simplicity. But you hear about it all the time. The best coaches, the guys at the Melbourne Storm. I've just got a really simple process. I've got a really simple job. I just go out there and do my job. And you would hear it the world over in sport. come back to process, and I'd be pretty willing to bet that there's plenty there who haven't achieved at their best. They're not sure what their process is. Even Nick Kyrgios, I heard him interviewed just recently. He knows his process, and it's being true to himself and being a little bit, even called it being a psychopath on court, because it's true to who he is. He's a character, he's a performer. And he talked about his best year in tennis. It was the year when he didn't try and be this tennis player that everyone else wanted him to be, but just go out there and be himself. And he had the best year. He had the third best record for the year in the whole world. He went within a whisker of taking the Wimbledon final against arguably the greatest of all time in Novak Djokovic. So whether you are in business, in the workplace, your own sport, whether you're in that elite sport, or if you're a park footballer or a aspiring low handicap golfer, whatever your journey is, it works. Know what your process is. One of the things I love doing with my clients is to help them see what their high level process is. And in one area of their life, they've got a way that they do things well. And they wouldn't know it as a process. So we unpack it. Now, for some of them, their best process is in sport, and they then apply it to other areas of life. Some of them feel like they're great parents, and they have a process that they follow. And one in particular, as a CEO, he took that process and then applied it to some high-powered business meetings with the same process. When he's going into that environment, he's making sure he's calm and centered before he hangs out with his children. He connects with them. He listens. He's patient. He's calm. All of these things, taking those into those business meetings, and it works. So somewhere within you, you have something that you do at a high level. Everyone does. And you might be listening going, well, I don't know what that is. Take the time, journal on it, sit with it, ask other people. What is something that you do well? You will find it. Log the steps from a very specific perspective of that particular task that you do so well. And then try and come up with some generic steps of what that means. So, for example, like the CEO talking about going into that environment with his kids, he goes, well, I'll make sure I'm chilled out. I've switched off from the workday. I've got myself in a state that I'm good to go. Yeah, so that's that calm element. So it's like getting yourself into the right state. Now that might be different for all of his different environments, but at least he knows what that is, and he's got in the back of his head, subconsciously and consciously, the roadmap, because he can just default back to that one area that he already does well. Map it out in generic terms, test it out in different environments, see if it works. If it doesn't work, go back and tweak it until you find that you've got something that you can replicate. Because when you can replicate your high performance process and apply it to every area of your life, you'll be having those same conversations with people that I've just described there. Jess Hull, Mav Gaia, Nick Kyrgios, the elite, right? You'll be able to have those same conversations. They go, I just stuck to my plan, and I know I gave it my absolute best in this situation. And you'll start doing it in lots of situations. And have that discipline to stick to the process, to stay calm, to stay on plan, on your race plan, on your process. You'll get incredible success, and I guarantee it'll work across all areas of your life. Let me know how you go, as always. I love to hear when people are getting great results with these strategies, and let's keep that conversation going. And if you haven't already, make sure you jump in to our Facebook community, the Sport is Life movement, where I'm sharing more of these high performance tactics, stuff you won't get here on the pod, some extra bits from some of the guests that I held back from the interview or thought about afterwards, and share in that environment. Would love to see you with me. You've taken the time to listen to this whole episode. Now it's time to take action. Commit to one thing you've learned today and make it happen. And to avoid any obstructions, join the Sport is Life movement by clicking on the link in the show notes.